So, roughly for the past week or so, we've been going over looking at the future and what Resident Evil Village could offer us in terms of DLC, and the videos have done great, and the discussion has been great around them, and it's been a blast to do them. But now I thought we'd go back and look at things we already have in terms of DLC, and what better way to start with Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7, actually, a lot of people would agree, saying that this is the best DLC we've ever seen for a Resident Evil game. Now, they don't do many DLCs, I'll be honest with you. I think the DLC only really started with 4, and that was just a couple of extra modes, a different version of events with Ada. Resident Evil 5 had a couple of filler DLCs where you would play a kind of prologue as to what happened with Jill, and then a kind of bridge as to how Jill and whoever the guy is that's in the BSA team get onto the helicopter. But 7 was something completely different. So today we're looking at one of the banned footages, which is one of the DLCs for Resident Evil 7, and this is Bedroom. This is probably my all-time favourite DLC for a Resident Evil game so far. It is spooky, it is tense, it is full of puzzles, and obviously don't worry, we're going to go over what it kind of involves right now and the story behind it and what's really going on. But then we're going to talk about why it's so good, and then obviously throughout the week we'll carry on going through all the other banned footages, the extra modes in Resident Evil 7, one that sticks out in particular. I think we all know what it's going to be, because it is such a popular mode that it has to be covered, and as well as the actual story continuation DLCs for the game. So, without any further ado, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe for new Resident Evil content every single day, and weekend streams, and let's jump into it. So, Resident Evil Bedroom DLC, you play as Clancy Jarvis, and he is one of the people who play in the house tape right at the beginning of the game, where you play as the ghost hunting crew that go in to kind of investigate the big house, and then they all get picked off, and Clancy is the one you play as, and the perspective that you play. We do know that Clancy meets his end in the main game, in the Happy Birthday tape, which is where he dies, but before that, he went through some other things in the house, and this is one of them. Essentially, in this scenario, he is captured by Marguerite and chained to a bed, and kind of essentially forced to eat what they eat that kind of gives them the power of the molded, or turns them into molded. And in a base way, what you are kind of tasked with doing is getting out of this room before you die. Now, in order to do this, you have to solve a lot of puzzles. There is no combat in this DLC whatsoever. It is all puzzles, and you have to figure it all out. But the best part about it is, and this is where it really gets the tense atmosphere that it has, certain stages throughout progressing the DLC, you'll make a loud noise in the room, or something will kind of hit the floor, and Marguerite will be alerted, and you'll have about 40 seconds to put everything back to where it was originally. So you have to remember where everything went that you've picked up, make sure there's nothing on you that is obviously not supposed to be on you, and you have to do this quickly, because if you don't do it in time, she comes in and damages you. I think you have 3 or 2 tries at this before she kills you, but you have to memorize every location for everything, and it is intense. When she comes in, it's kind of a cutscene play out, but your controller vibrates and she kind of stops still, and then obviously the AI kind of looks around the room, saying some ominous words to you, thinking something's wrong, and you always sit there did I miss something? Is this gonna kill me? But it isn't the case, and hopefully, if everything is in the right place, when she comes back, you'll be fine. Another thing in the DLC that is present, that isn't really present in the main game, and it's not a massive thing, but you have dialogue options, and Clancy is a fleshed out character. He has a voice, a motive, you know his backstory, you know how he got there, but obviously the main game is you play as Ethan, but it's so good to see that the DLC has kind of fleshed out his character as well. But yeah, you have these dialogue options you can pick from. I think it comes up twice. One of them is essentially a safety net. You can kind of say that and you'll avoid a hit if something is wrong. But the other two is funny. She brings in the food and you can always say it looks great or it looks like shit or something like that. It's pretty funny. Obviously they have different reactions and stuff like that, but it's just a nice touch, I think, at the end of the day. Obviously, it does make a massive difference in the outcome of the DLC, but it's just funny to have it there. One of the best things about this DLC really is that Resident Evil 7 was released, and when it got to the public and people played it through, you know, all the way, people said it was genuinely actually a scary game. And to be honest, the first time through, it was pretty scary, especially the first half of the game. Obviously, kind of separates pretty well between the horror at the end of the game. But for the first half of the game, when you don't have a clue what's going on, or you're just very unprepared, you don't have many weapons or items or anything like that, it can be quite scary. And that's not just in like a jump scare kind of creepy way. The game is very atmospheric. And the DLC, especially this one, and another one we'll go over in a few days, keep the tone so well. In fact, I think all of the DLCs do in some way or another. Whether it's because of the environment you're in, the situation you're placed in, the danger that's there, the game keeps you kind of feeling the intensity of it throughout every aspect of it, regardless of what you're doing at the time. Like, you're always going to shit your pants in some way or another in this game, which is why it's so good, like why the game got the attention it did. And yes, they obviously said when Village came out, they toned down the horror aspect of the game because they thought it was too scary, which is weird. Anyway, it's just good to see that, especially because Resident Evil 7 was kind of like a small reboot for the series after 6 and 5, that they went back to a focus on the horror, and people loved that about this game. And it definitely shows throughout the single player campaign and the DLC as well. So, for an overall summary of this DLC specifically, I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun, especially blind. Do not look up how to do this DLC. Do it first time on your own, because if you watch a guide, which honestly the whole DLC probably takes about 10 minutes if you're completely aware of what you need to do, just don't do it with a guide. Watch it blind. If you get stuck, just focus down and just figure it out, because the initial feeling of it is great. The atmosphere is amazing. Marguerite as a character, although she's not in the main game a lot, she's probably the creepiest one, just because of her, like, her look and how she moves around, especially the boss fight. It is genuinely the creepiest part of the game, in my opinion. So having her be present in this DLC, specifically and solely, is great, because a big aspect of RE7 was obviously Jack, Baker, and Evelyn, who are very different in terms of tone of character. I would even say that Jack's more of a comic relief at some point. Like, he's a great character and he's menacing, but he has some amazing lines that just really hit the funny aspects of the Resident Evil series. But this DLC does not mess around. It is very intense. The puzzles are amazing. If you figure them out, you always have all these massive, small little implosions in your brain when you figure them out in this DLC. Like, oh my god, I'm this dumb. Oh, I can't believe that was what I had to do. And it's just a lot of fun. This is probably Resident Evil at its core, with the spookiness and the puzzles. Like, if you played the original, you'll know that game's full of puzzles, and it doesn't really have a focus on the combat. It is there, it is present, but the original is, you know, its focus is to kind of the mystery of the mansion, you know, and I kind of feel that in this DLC. But yeah, this has been my thoughts on the bedroom DLC of the banned footage tapes of Resident Evil 7. If you haven't played this yet, I would really recommend you do. It's a lot of fun, it's intense, it's spooky, and all of the DLCs for this game are brilliant. They're all honestly brilliant. The game's brilliant, the DLCs are incredible, and obviously we'll be covering them all this week, starting with this one. Tomorrow we'll switch tones slightly to more action-focused DLC. It is one of the banned footages, so I'd imagine you can probably figure out which one it's going to be from that. If you do want to see a full run of this DLC, I have a video in the description. This is a very old video of mine that I did when the game first came out, so I was quite young at the time. Around, I'm not going to try and remember how old I was when this game came out, but you can check it out. It's the full expansion, about 20 minutes, took me to get through all, but no commentary or anything like that, so you can kind of feel the intensity. And obviously if you don't have access to the DLC, you can watch a completely blind run of it on the channel here, so I'll leave that in the description. Another video tomorrow on the DLC. As always, let me know your thoughts on this one down below in the comments. I would love to hear what people think about this DLC and all of them throughout the week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.